So just to recap here for
Yeah.
our, we are talking about cultural influence and
Right.
the realness of it, and particularly in the context of the hippies, the real hippies, not the sex, drugs, and roll hippies, who aren't actually the real hippies, and the New Age movement that flowed from it. By the way, it's why their music is so enduring. One of the reasons,
Mm-hmm.
because when you listen to people like Led Zeppelin, you can hear that deeperness of that
Right.
for a deeper desire for moreness, for
Right.
spirituality.
Right.
Carlos Santana, he is, let's see, what's his title? He was a bit, there's John McLaughlin, who was a big deal at that time with Mahavishnu,
Mm-hmm.
and he got titled Mahavishnu John McLaughlin. So
Mm.
apparently, Carlos also wanted a title, so he got one. It'll come to me in a moment, but anyway. So I'm just saying, the spirituality was a big deal. Look at the Beatles, who went over and to India and studied
Right.
transcendental
Right.
and all this stuff. It's a big part of that era and that time that now is somewhat forgotten.
Yeah.
Sadly forgotten. But like I said, it transmuted itself into the New Age movement without people even realizing it.
Right.
Anyhow, so you were going to say, sorry.
No, so I was going to say that I think Reiki is a really interesting example for me personally of, well, of several things, but background information. So I really didn't know anything about Reiki until fairly recently. And I came across this lady who is a Reiki healer on TikTok. And she does like virtual Reiki sessions over TikTok with like, a bunch of people that are watching. And I it just like randomly popped up on my TikTok the other day, and I started watching, and it was really interesting because it was when you are really focused and you're paying attention to what's going on, it is very relaxing. It's very, I mean, it is a very relaxing, calming, like it makes you sleepy, so it's a very relaxing experience. But what I find so fascinating I've watched a couple of her lives for like right before bed to relax. And something I find so fascinating about that culture, and I think really just a lot of the like new age culture in general, is that to me, as you said, so much of it, there is no scientific proof that any of these things are true. But clearly, for certain people, they are effective, right?
Yes.
It doesn't really matter whether it's true or not. If it is effective and valuable, then it's great. But in the new age, in a lot of the new age circles, all of this emphasis is put on it very much mattering that this is true and believed. It's like, oh, yes, crystals hold all of these specific powers. And, yes, all of this is real. And if you were to say, well, I don't know whether any of that is really true or not, but it helps me. And so, it's great. It doesn't really matter. I feel like that would be this major
Absolutely.
blasphemous no-no.
Absolutely, Erica. What you are elucidating now is a huge, great, big, massive,
And you're great.
right? And it's the same point that always fascinated me with Carlos. How it was such a bone of contention whether or not it was true and Don Juan was real. He
Right.
said,
Yes. Yeah.
uh, particularly when you come to self-evident sensibilities, which again, it's my own term. I've never ever seen anybody use this term.
Hmm.
Not part of thinking that there is even such a thing as a self-evident sensibility.
Right.
Fascinating, right? So things being able to be self-proving is not the concept, right? Somehow their truth is determined externally in some way, right? Which is really fascinating. It can't be proven by the thing itself or by a statement that can look
Right. Right.
itself, right? It's just fascinating how this is absent from psychology.
Right.
Very important power conception that changes so much. But yeah, I mean, this idea of truth and that you can only get value if it's true, I see
Right.
it as a basic premise misbelief that is very harmful.
Right.
Now, in the same way as people are getting power, we spoke about the placebo effect last time, right?
We spoke about what?
The placebo effect.
Yeah, yes, yes.
So, the guy quoting this in the thing, made a nice comment on it, which echoes, for me, the magic of it. Somebody said, "Oh, but it's just a placebo effect." He said, "No, no, 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 no.
Right,
It's no such
right,
thing as just.
right, right.
It is a profound thing. The fact that there is such a thing as a placebo effect is ridiculously profound.
Yes, I agree.
Now we understand that many of these new age treatments, the pseudoscience ones, are working on the placebo effect.
Right.
Now, I say to those people, don't claim that it is true and wonderful. Just say, look, you get value out of it. That's all that counts.
Exactly,
One of
exactly.
the other basic premises of Way of Impeccability in the Mourners Project, we are always looking at value and usefulness. Capital,
Yes,
capital,
yes,
right? Absolutely. This is key. Everything boils down to you getting capital V value and capital U usefulness. Forget it. That's why the application is so important. And we don't care whether things are true or not. We are going
right,
to get usefulness either way. That's an even more sophisticated strategy.
right.
We are going even beyond that. This is massively powerful.
Yeah,
Massive.
I agree.
So we
I
not only utilize the placebo effect when necessary, we also go beyond that and leverage strategy to get value,
mhm,
whether it's true or not, in both instances. This is
right.
so powerful. So it's very nice to understand that deeper psychology involved and
Yes,
not to jump to the conclusions, in other words.
right.
Very, very, very powerful. Oh, I was going to say, for so many people, if they would only understand this, it would take what they do to a new level.
Yes.
There's this one girl, her name is Rebecca Magic. I don't know
Mm,
if it's her actual name or not, but Magic
right.
after the CK. Um, but she does really, really good tarot readings. Now,
Okay.
personally, I think she's a bit off, and it shows. She comes
Mm.
across as fairly normal, but at least with a
Oh, gotcha.
bit of perception, you can see past this, right? Uh, when she gets in her mode of getting the tarot, her readings are fantastic. Not because it's something mystical and she's seeing the future, but because she has a very good grasp of general psychology and overall how things work. And she's
Hmm.
demonstrating and sharing general principles of
Right.
sensibility, much like any good astrologer will do, right?
Right. Right.
So, but she makes I'm using her as a particular example because she makes a big point out of insisting how real and true the tarot is.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
kills what she does. If she
Yes.
had, look, I'm going to share and I'm using the tarot deck because it stimulates me, it prompts me, it connects things, it pulls things from me, it connects me to the greater universe, and all the stuff comes out via this mechanism. Whether
Right.
you believe in the tarot as real or not is totally immaterial. You can get value either way, right? If she were to say
Yes.
that, I would be very happy to share. I had to, take her off, keep deleting her posts because she insists that it's true. But if
Hmm.
she had simply said, "Look, you can get value whether it's true or not. Take it, take the value for yourself, regardless of whether it's true." She would be fantastic and phenomenal because she really knows this. Yes, it's kind of some kind of a pop psychology, but a little deeper. But
Right.
it would have tremendous value. But I'm reluctant to put it on because it's like the magic that's coming from this magic of the tarot. No, it's not.
Right. Right.
So, uh,
Well, and I think
other
that's
people that have stuff like that they want to pitch.
yes. Yes. And I think that's, I mean, to me, that concept of something having to be true and real in order for it to be valuable is a key aspect of so much strife and conflict that exists in our life today. I mean, it doesn't really matter. And if we didn't worry about that, then all the differences that cause so much problem wouldn't be a problem anymore. But it's because we're so focused on, well, this, in
Exactly.
order for it to be right and good and valuable, it has to be true, then that, I mean, to me, that is so clearly tied to the PSP, it, because if it being true and real has this total connotation of superior.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if I'm the one who knows what's true, then and that's so dumb, but it is, I mean, that is definitely to me a key aspect of a lot of the strife that's happening in our world right now.
And for this, I fault the church.
I agree completely.
We are the custodians of the truth.
Yes,
Never
I
mind that
agree
every now
completely.
and then it gets, shown to be absolute complete nonsense, and
Yes,
not no, but no, this was their claim to fame,
yes,
and people get locked into that, and
right,
it
right.
distorts their lives. And like I was explaining to you, I don't know, recently about those earnest people that I grew up with, the ones, essentially the Amish mindset, that how they were so bothered by their inadvertent hypocrisy. I
Yeah,
sought for hypocrisy because they believed this lie that this is the truth, but then they couldn't sustain it in their everyday lives, and of course
right,
they had doubts. And the fact that they had doubts pained them in order that
right.
they're not supposed to doubt.
Yes,
This is the truth. But
yes,
your reality says to you otherwise. So, I really saw those people suffer unnecessarily.
yes,
It
yes,
made me,
absolutely,
made me very sad.
absolutely.
It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. Now, to get to the abstract conceptuality that makes all of this and puts it all in context and makes it utilizable, we understand the concept of essential basic premise.
Hmm.
Yes? Because that's what we're talking about. The influence of assumed essential basic premises.
Right, right.
Those are essential to people. Religion is truth. What the
Yes,
Bible is,
yes,
you can't live by it. And if you
right.
stick with that, you either have to cancel it, or if you stick with it, you end up in this life of misery. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, to me, the Bible, the Bible is such a perfect example
Yeah.
of something that we are told, the base premise of the Bible is this comes straight from God, and everything that's in this book makes sense and is true and is real. And if you question anything, then, not a you. And it's the perfect example to me of something that we are told makes sense. But when you really go through it, there are so many things that don't make sense or that contradict each other or whatever. And if you're living in that reality where you are told that in order to be good, you have to believe every single thing in this book, but clearly there are contradictions, there are things that don't make sense, of course you're going to live in a constant state of stress and, weirdness. I mean, it's it's crazy. We just found out actually that um, one of Joe's aunt and uncles who they're incredibly sweet people, and I really love them as people. They're some of my favorite family members of his, but they're not hugely religious. That's the really interesting thing. I mean, they both grew up Catholic, but they don't go to church anymore. It's not really a religion thing. It's a political thing. They are hugely conservative. They are major Trump supporters, like major. And they have all of these beliefs that they feel they have to adhere to, or else, they're bad people. And we just found out. So they had two sons and a daughter. The daughter was killed in a car accident when she was 16. One of the sons is gay, and that was a bit of a point of contention for them, I think, early on, but had not been, they had gotten over that and they had a good relationship with him and his partner. And then the other son is married and has a daughter who is 15 now. And that daughter, the granddaughter, Joe's aunt would post all the time when she was younger about like baking with her and, doing all this stuff. She was just like absolutely obsessed with Kaylee. She loved her. She was her only grandchild, I think. And we just found out that Kaylee, the granddaughter, has now come out recently as transgender. And so she is now going by Chris and, changed pronouns. He is a he now. And that was just so completely unacceptable to Bob and Jeanette, to Joe's aunt and uncle, that they have completely shut off contact with the transgender grandchild, with his parents, and now they have decided that the reason that he got this idea in his head that he is transgender was because of the other son's partner, the gay son. And so they've stopped talking to them as well. They're, oh, well, you guys planted this idea in Kaylee's head. So, you guys are on the outs too. So they now have completely shut off contact with their entire family, basically, over this thing because of their political beliefs. And to me, that's just one of those perfect examples of just total nonsense in things that are written in the Bible. That when you have, especially a family member whom you love and care about and who is a good person, and this book tells you that you should hate, something's wrong. Something is wrong there. That blows my mind. And that people know this. That they question. But to say, no, if I question that, then I'm a bad person. So I guess I'm just going to shut off all of the, that makes no sense to me. It's so bizarre.
Yes. Yeah, but this is the thing, because the key point of it, of course, is this lack of independence of being.
Right, right.
If you don't know how to think for yourself and have discernment, which is why awareness. Yes, you can have awareness, but without discernment, you never get to understanding, and then your application is flawed. So.
And I had never thought about this until right now, but you were talking about sheep and how sheep, they require someone to shepherd them around because they just like are not paying attention all the time. And sheep, that is one of the things in the Bible that's what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be sheep and God is your shepherd and blah blah. Yikes,
It's telling you directly.
Yeah.
You are supposed to be a sheep, or that you are a sheep and you need the shepherd.
Right.
So
right.
Who benefits from this? Be a man. Who wrote the Bible? A be a man.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a be a man manual for manipulation and control. Fascinating.
Yes.
And I love it that the people that get so caught up with this stuff, they don't see the very conspiracy that's right in front of their face.
I know.
You go on about the conspiracies, but you are in it, which is, I guess, why subconsciously they rant and go on so much about conspiracies. They're aware that they are actually in a conspiracy themselves.
Right.
Of it.
Yes.
Really fascinating. Very, very powerful stuff.
I had never thought about that before, about the sheep and this big focus in the Bible about being sheep and God being your shepherd. Wow, that is just like
amazing. Yeah.
Yikes. That's just like flashing neon sign. Man.
Isn't it in the Lord's Prayer?
Is it in the Lord's Prayer? Lord is my shepherd.
Yeah.
Lord, yeah, is that the Lord's Prayer?
Sentence. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
Shall not want. Yeah. He maketh me to lie down and go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I rewrote that as a kid, by the way.
Did you? That is Psalm. That's a Psalm.
Oh, is it a psalm, not the Lord's?
Psalm 91 or something.
See if I
Yeah.
can find it.
Maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Walk
It might
through the
not
valley of
be in
death.
the
Yeah.
actual, because the Lord's Prayer is a very specific thing. Yeah.
Our Father who art in heaven is the Lord.
That's how that starts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Lead us not into temptation. Yeah.
Yeah. But deliver us from evil. Right. Yeah.
So, since writing has also come up um, in big ways, I keep stressing to being write ugly, edit pretty, which being
Right.
starting to become an editor, so, it's a whole brain shifted, which is
Mm-hmm.
into before she wouldn't even be able to see the double spaces. Now she's noticing it.
Ah, nice.
I mean, literally, I just didn't see it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so amazed that I saw it. But yeah, I mean, and that writing there was, she was editing herself too, which is really cool. Anyway, so this rewrite is also on the converse side, is showing the power of punctuation.
Yeah.
I gotta find it now. I have it somewhere. Here we go. I like that I'm more or less organized, Vina, so that I can at least find things. So, so in context of what we're writing, yes, on the one hand, it's about discernment and thinking for yourself, but on the other hand, it's also about the power of punctuation.
Yes.
So this could be a very good example of, applying punctuation and how much difference it can make. Okay, so, well, I like my artwork for this. I've forgotten.
Yes.
Yeah, very cool, very appropriate, right? Oh, very cool. I spent a lot of time in that thing. All right, so, right, so you have to read along with me.
Okay.
Punctuation, right? The Lord's Prayer, question mark. Our Father, question mark. Where art thy heaven?
Mm-hmm.
If hallowed be thy name, will thy kingdom come?
Mm-hmm.
If thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, then where is this day our daily bread?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why do we trespass and need to forgive those who trespass against us? Why lead us into temptation
Mm-hmm.
or evil?
Yes.
For is thine
Absolutely.
not the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever? Question mark. Amen. Question mark.
Yes. And okay, that point that you made,
Yeah.
just eliminate all evil. That, I mean, we've talked about this so many times, but that to me
Yeah.
was one of the biggest things as a kid that I just totally did not understand was like, if God is all powerful, how can there possibly be evil? How can there be Satan? How can there be anything other than God? If God is all powerful, why would this exist?
Exactly. And for me, this was the same way. It was a big, big point. So, because of my insistence on coming to resolution,
Mm-hmm.
I have a physical DNA need to come to resolution. I can't,
Right.
that's in my DNA somehow. So, because of this and thinking it through to the end, we get this understanding that it is all about awareness. And whether or not there's a deity involved or not is totally irrelevant, right?
Right, right.
And everything in the context of awareness. And I personally feel that it's more, what we call a deity or God or the universe is intent. And
Yes.
intent,
Yeah.
the intent of the energy that makes up the universe is to come to awareness.
Right.
Then it all makes sense. Then there is no evil because, well, it's just
Right.
awareness. And
Right.
it resolves that question, which is to me the what I'm trying to bring into or am bringing in the story of the gift of doubt story, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yes.
bringing it in very, very, very subtly. But also, there's a deeper strategy in that. I'm trying to bring this point from the inside, not the outside.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to truly change things, don't change them, try and change them from the outside. Well, you can sometimes, but it takes a lot of energy. If you
Yes.
can use the internal logic and just tweak it ever so slightly,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, you want to turn a train around, what do? You shunt it onto a different track and, you put it on a looping track and there you go, right?
Mm.
You don't
Yeah.
actually try and stop the train and that takes a lot of energy, yes?
Right.
So when you try and change things from outside, difficult, inside easy. So I
Mm-hmm.
think this is a big, big, big deal. At least from a religion point of view, if
Right.
that logic of the gift of doubt were to go viral and be accepted by the church, what a difference it would make.
Yes. Absolutely.
Now you
Absolutely.
could come to the church and you listening to it because it gives you value, not whether it's true or not, right? That's
Right.
the first
Right.
consequence of that. And now you're looking at the Bible not as this blanket of truth, but this absoluteness of truth, but as a book of genius. And the genius, wow, now I'm going with your beliefs, right? Of course, it's
Mm-hmm.
genius. It's written by God. Of course, there are contradictions. It's written by God. Why are there
Right.
contradictions? Because God wants you to think. Think for yourself. Come to your
Right.
own conclusions. He's
Right.
forcing you to come to. What a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant move on God's part.
Right.
Hallelujah, God. I'm,
Right. Right.
I'm not
Right.
going against your beliefs. I'm going with them.
Yes. Yeah.
Every strategy. I truly feel that if people had this understanding to hear everything that's being preached, and the point of the sermon is, what is your takeaway? What do you take from this? What do you get the value? Where we're not preaching anymore to tell you, but we are sharing, and it's up
Right.
to you. Then
Right.
your after sermon, your Bible study classes and all that, which is a big part of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Yeah.
and Sunday school, all becomes about your takeaways.
Mm-hmm.
It's all discussion now, not preaching, not telling.
Right.
That
Right.
is your and boy, if you think the church was big now, it will become way bigger then if they would
Yeah.
adopt this.
Yeah.
It would change the world. I mean, particularly something like the Catholic Church, where they have so
Right.
much power.
Right.
But then all the churches would, and they just have their own variations, and it wouldn't really matter. But I mean, it would change everything all over. So anyway, I truly feel this is a potential for world change,
Mm-hmm.
this understanding, and this making peace with evil, understanding this
Yes.
whole idea.
Yes. I agree. I
I
agree.
mean, at that point when I wrote this, I hadn't fully worked through this, how it all makes sense yet. Yeah. So,
Right. Well, but that's, I mean, to me, that's, I think it fits perfectly because
oh, it's perfectly
you've
both.
called it the questioner's prayer. And this to me is sort of it's
Exactly.
like this is that initial questioning of, okay, well, wait a minute. If you're all powerful, why wouldn't you just eliminate all evil? I mean, it's sort of that first step of moving
Exactly.
into thinking things through.
Exactly. That's first step of doubt.
Right, right.
And also, one thing that always really fascinated me was that if you go with uh, uh, the classic definitions of God,
Uh-huh.
God is all powerful and all knowing.
Right,
Those are the two criteria that make up
right,
God,
right.
which I always thought was fascinating. Not all loving, all kind, no, all knowledgeable and
Mm,
all powerful. Does being all powerful and omniscient make you wise?
no.
No, exactly. And I thought this omission was really telling for me.
Hmm.
When you
Yeah,
think about it again, just hey, go by your own logic here. No, nobody said God was all wise. No, they just said He's all powerful and He knows everything. Uh,
right.
Knowing everything doesn't make you wise; it just makes you aware of facts and information.
Hmm.
Now you could argue, well, if He knows everything, He knows what all the wisdom is, so it's included in there. If you want to,
Right, right.
but in the sense of the way the thing is usually meant, it doesn't mean that.
Yeah.
So, very, very interesting. But yeah, I like this poem very much. It's a very big deal because the greaterness of it, the deeperness of it, by
Hmm.
implication, it's called the questioner's prayer.
Right.
Not not, a religion is nonsense or whatever. So the title is very important here.
Right.
I'm glad you saw that there. Um, it sets the framework for this, the context of perception, in other words, the
Yeah.
framework of perception. Very important to see it. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, another nice little picture that I
Mhm.
found. But it's that simplicity of hopefulness, and people dealing with very rotten realities who want something more. And that's always bothered me, and I understand back in the day, for your average serf or peasant, it's a very miserable existence, so
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
bringing some little ray of hope there with, you just
Right.
your bread and that's it.
Right.
So, I appreciate it in that context that it did offer a balm of,
Hmm.
but we don't live in that age anymore.
Right. Right.
I mean, we really don't. You go to the average, village in Africa, right? America, by the way, is the only country in the world that doesn't have villages. Did you know that?
Hmm. Yeah.
That's one of my
Perfect.
little pet peeves, I guess. But anyway, you go to the average, place in Africa that's poor and rural. Everybody got cell phones.
Interesting.
I mean, they're common. Not everybody, but they're common.
Right.
So, and there's a big project, I believe, from one of the charities to get cell phones into the hands of people, even if they don't have indoor plumbing or water or whatever.
Wow.
It connects them to the internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this is too fantastically, marvelously wonderful. It's such a big deal, and it's transformed. And they've even done a whole bunch I've seen where they just kind of dropped off these computers without explaining how they work. They just basically handed them out, and of course the little kids figured it out.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I'm
And
talking, like I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6,
yeah.
7, that
Yeah.
age, young kids, not teenagers.
Yeah.
This was really, really interesting to me. That the teenagers were lost already.
Yeah.
They were too entrenched in their belief system.
Right. Right.
Them already. They didn't even have the curiosity to explore. But
Yeah.
I found it fascinating that they gave no instructions whatsoever,
Hmm.
and then the little kids figured it out. That,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yes,
Yeah. It is.
very heartening as well. Very,
It
very,
is.
very heartening. So I am inordinately fascinated by what could happen if children were absolutely in an appropriate environment of freedom like that.
Yes.
An environment completely free from a bias of assumptive essential premises.
Right. Right.
Incredible. Incredible. It's a big topic in the Biala series, not directly, but later on, and
Hmm.
in one of the sub series. Have I ever read any of the Clara's Class stories to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we have. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I absolutely love those.
Hmm.
It's I have the greatest fondness for those and joy in writing them. I
Yeah.
was telling Bina, I think my psychology is still stuck in that
Right. Right.
that space. Now the kids are younger than the psychology, because they in the future, so they are going to be, and because of the environment that they're in, they are somewhat what we would consider precocious, but they're in that
Right.
environment not so, right? Uh,
Right.
so they kind of ahead. I mean, they exhibit the same psychology of teenagers, later teens, even young adults.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, I'm still in that space. I guess I'm forever the eternal young man. I'm happy to be. I absolutely resolved. I saw some of my friends' parents do stupid adult things.
Yes.
There's a whole legion of them, right? Well, at that time you couldn't say, but why? Because you get a smack, right?
Yes.
Sense whatsoever. The only reason they did, and even if it should come up sometimes, they would say, but that's the way it's always been done, or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah.
But even it was this assumption that's an adult thing, and that's what you do as an adult, and it ruined those people. It made them stupid.
Hmm.
Solved never to be that kind of adult. I was
Right.
specific. I said that kind of adult, but
Hmm.
also very, very, very strong resolve, and I'm very pleased to say that I never ever became
Yeah.
that default should and supposed to adult stuff. No, hell no, hell no. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I saw that was death to people
Hmm.
who otherwise could have been good people and nice people. I didn't think they were bad people. They've just been made stupid by becoming adults.
Right.
Terrible, terrible, terrible. I saw it in almost all my friends' parents.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool business. All right. Anything else that's, well, before we do whatever we're going to do, it's such a magical diversion here.
Yes. This was a really. This is a really important topic. I think a really, really
Oh,
important.
it's huge. It's huge. Let's sum it up though. By the way, something that I noticed, very particularly American things, the way they open pool tabs.
Mm.
Oh, they're so expert at it. It's
Oh, that's funny.
done with such natural ease. With me, I got to concentrate when I open the damn things. It's like
Oh, that's funny. That's really
I
funny.
didn't grow
I
up
guess
with pool tabs. It's just
right. I guess that's what I was gonna say. It's a lifetime of growing up with like Diet Coke cans. I
right,
don't
right,
know.
right, exactly. Or just any, just cans with pool tabs. Like I said, they weren't around.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Very funny, yeah.
I like it. Um,
Americans, by the way, are unbelievably sophisticated shoppers. As
yeah,
much
I
as
can see that.
Americans lack sophistication in pretty much everything else. Oh, fantastic.
Shopping. I like it. Oh, that's funny.
One hope though, because from a global point of view, and when I grew up, in my class, we had literally, wow, uh, I don't know if it's quite a dozen, but it was certainly more than a half a dozen different nationalities represented. I mean, where the kids spoke that language at home, whether it be Greek, Italian, Dutch, whatever. We didn't have a Frenchie, interestingly enough, right?
Mm,
Uh, well, I did. My one friend was French, but I didn't have a Frenchie in my class, but he was older. But my point is that, in my community, and like when I went down to the yacht club or wherever, you meeting and hanging out with these people on a regular basis, right? We
right.
came from the country. Remember, I told you with my Italian friend when I joked about the mafia, and he
Yes. Yes. Yep.
scared the crap out of me. This shows the cultural influence. So it's not something that was, absent. It was still very strong.
Right.
So you do. I was very fortunate in this, that I had this awareness and acquaintance and with cultures from other side the world,
Right.
not just through reading but directly as well. And also, interestingly enough, TV came very late there. I was explaining to Bina, only in 1975 did TV,
Mm,
when I was in seventh grade, in other words, right? And then for the first 2 years, it was only 2 hours a night, like a test transmission. So
hmm
in 77, I think they upped it to like 4 hours, and it gradually get, but by the time I left school in 1980, it was still not, a TV all day long, right? It would end with a test pattern, and that was it. So TV was not a part of my upbringing, and for the country as a whole, it came very late, which made for a whole very different perspective. But what I wanted to say was, in the context of culture, because at that time, of course, it's all the TV is just for white South Africans,
Right.
essentially. In
Right.
their arrogance, they didn't even think of black TV because, well, blacks couldn't afford TV. So, like, why
Right.
bother? But in their minds, the country's white people, anyway. So,
Yes.
and the two national languages were English and Afrikaans. But because
Okay.
there's no TV industry to make Afrikaans programs, they did later on. But so they bought European programs and dubbed them into Afrikaans. It
Mm.
was fantastic. I mean, I remember three specific programs. One, a German program of a detective called Derek, and he
Okay.
sort of lugubrious fellow who he wasn't quite depressed, but he wasn't a cheerful guy either.
Okay.
Man, what a sophisticated show. Now, whoever did the translation wasn't the conservative people, so they translated it
Mm.
faithfully, and you could pick up on the sophistication.
Interesting.
It was fantastic. Yeah, it was really great. It was, well, absolute one of my favorite shows. And then another one was called The Girl from Avignon. I'm translating, which is,
Okay.
of course, a French, in the countryside, and all this, a little bit, I think, in the earlier age, but
Right.
basically giving you an introduction into French culture. And then there was another one about a Spanish boy called Sebastian, anyway,
Right.
but he had the A at the end of his name. still SE.
Oh,
But
okay. Okay.
my original name was Sebastion.
Okay.
English, very English, right?
Yeah.
Sebastian, very English spelling.
Yeah.
I think today in England they might spell it with an A, but back then it was spelled with an O.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So anyway, I changed it later to the three A's, but a completely unrelated reason.
Yes.
A long story. But anyway, so I'm just saying that this awareness of cultures outside
Yes.
of my own is very useful. And the point I was trying to make that from a world culture point of view, Americans aren't seen as particularly cultured. And
Right.
from a European point of view, absolutely.
Right.
Like from the Chinese and the Japanese absolutely are like, oh, they're like seriously
Right.
affronted by the lack. India, as far as I can understand, not so much, because I guess some of their culture now is, yes, they have their historical culture, but it's also largely influenced by the British again.
Right. Right.
But they too, have a sophistication in other ways that offsets this, but still a very rough. India's kind of all over the show culture,
Right.
different aspects. So they don't quite have this as much as like say the Chinese or the Japanese or the Koreans would have. Just like facepalm when it comes to American,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they forget or they don't pay attention to the sophistications of American
Mhm.
when it comes to shopping.
Yeah.
And well, you could extend that, right? I say shopping because it's a sophistication when it comes to image and
Mhm.
looks and stuff like that. It's absurd. I mean, you just have to watch Kim Kardashian's show.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, she's kind of brainless on one sense, but on the other hand, she's very sophisticated.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And
That's
a lot of
interesting.
people give her a big hard time, but her sophistication in looks and image and self promotion
Mhm.
and all this, it's off the charts. Nobody else
Right.
anywhere else is even close to it. Yes,
Right.
outside of her field, she's a
Right.
genius.
Right.
But I don't criticize her for it because, boy, she brings a lot of joy to a lot of people to whom that stuff is important.
That's true.
Shopping
That
and
is true.
image and looks and all of that. And
Yep.
and they just love her for it, and rightly so. She's a true expert in that.
Yeah. That
Mm,
is true.
very
That
cool.
is
Just a
true.
bit of perspective, just in the bigger context. Um, and that bigger context where we started to see where we are at culturally and
Right.
how so many things had a big effect. And,
Yes.
and these particular books that I'm reading, I said to Bina, yes, her rereading project was specifically on the books that she's read, and it
Right.
happened to be that Siddhartha was one that I'd also read.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Alchemist wasn't, so I read it more recently, but more because of you and Kay, actually,
Right. Right.
for Sabina. But to see these things in their context is very important. So one thing I do want to mention is two other books that are very influential on
Okay.
American culture that Americans don't realize is
Interesting.
Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith and is it Milton Freeman? Yeah, Milton Freeman. I forget his book, what his famous book is called, right? He got the Nobel Prize for economics and he wrote this massive book that basically,
Oh, is it The World is Flat or
no, no. If you Google Milton Freeman, I'm sure it'll come up.
let's see. Milton
Wow, I'm
Friedman.
surprised I don't remember. It was on my shelf of influential books. Not ones I take to the desert with me, but nonetheless.
Milton Friedman book. Capitalism and Freedom.
But yeah, I think that could be it. But anyway,
Free
so,
to Choose is another
yeah.
one.
So freedom to choose, that's it.
Free to Choose. Yeah.
No, free to choose, not freedom to, free to choose. Yeah, free to choose. Anyway, he basically updated Adam Smith, right? And
Okay.
our modern monetary policy is very much still founded on Milton Freeman to a large extent, and Keynes. There's another guy called Keynes that also is very influential. But I
Okay.
think Milton Freeman came and updated him. Now, I've been sort of outside of the trends of stuff. There's
Right.
likely others that came after, but the effect of him is still in process it may be unwinding, but the momentum is still there, right? It may have peaked and gone up, like Einstein and his theories, right?
Right.
Are now superseded by string theory, but it doesn't mean that Einstein is still influential in the field of physics, right?
Right.
So technically, he's a very small part of it, but his influence is still felt. Same with
Yeah.
right? There's others who, same with Jung and Freud. I mean,
Hmm.
I meant to say Freud first, right? I mean, Freud is still massively influential
Right.
in
Right.
psychology, even though I think you'd be hard pressed to find a Freudian psychologist today.
Right. Right.
You find Jungian ones still, but I don't know when last. It's sort of been discredited in the whole.
Hmm.
But yet, look at our language. We say
Yeah.
subconscious, ego. Where
Right.
did words come? They came from Jung.
Right. Right.
I mean, they came
From
from.
Freud. Yeah.
By the way, just on a sub note, Jung is coming up because Hermann Hesse went to Jung for
Mhm.
psychoanalysis, right? And they became good friends and maintained their friendship, for
Interesting.
for the rest of their lives. Yeah, it's very interesting. Wrote lots of letters and stuff together. I mean, there's a book on the friendship between Hermann Hesse and Jung. Yeah,
Interesting.
very interesting stuff. Yeah, yeah. That was an age that was very different to our age. You probably saw this with Einstein,
Hmm.
how he was not only connected but able to connect to all the luminaries in his field.
Right. Right.
I don't think that's as easy today as it was back then,
Hmm.
right? I mean, despite our ability, to find somebody's email, just because of the plethora of stuff that people get, they're just going to filter it all out.
Right.
When you wrote a letter to somebody, like he wrote a letter to Bo, he had every confidence that Bo would get it and respond.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, to me, this is just a magically beautiful thing. And you not only
Mhm.
in the sciences, because not only with in Einstein's field, but all across the sciences. But you see it also with the early authors, like even the early science fiction authors. They would get together and stuff like this. And there's fantastic stories about like even earlier than the science fiction guys.
Hmm.
Tolkien got together with, I forget their names now, two very prominent other writers and
Interesting.
very famous get together that they had. Yeah. And I think one of them was like a big guy in the science fiction field, and Tolkien didn't care for it much at all and said,
Wow. Interesting.
yeah, very fascinating. So, this access, I don't know if it is available today, but certainly if it is, I don't know of it. And they
Right.
keep it private.
Yeah.
But it's a big deal, and it's part of what I am making an effort to establish, that there
Hmm.
is a forum where we can discuss on that level. Yeah,
Right. Right.
I felt the lack of what Einstein had, and those early authors had. I felt this lack all my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was never ever available to me, unfortunately. When I went to university, I was hoping it would be.
Right.
University was so disappointing. Makes me sad. Anyway,
Yeah.
well enough because I might start crying. It
Oh gosh.
really was very sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had all this ideals and hope, and it was like, no, no, no.
Right. Right.
What Einstein had, well, he didn't quite get it in, except in that one school, a little bit he got it, but he found it, outside of
Yeah.
academia specifically, even
Right.
though he still, shared his papers academically, and he still remained part of academia, right?
Right.
It's truly remarkable to me, how much and how much he was influenced and influenced others. The
Mm.
back and forth in their things. Like one guy, he criticized his theory. He didn't agree with it at all, and the guy really persisted and
Right.
came back at Einstein and said, no,
Right.
no, no. And he, eventually, grudgingly, sort of, okay, all right, I see your
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
He's a bit stuck in his ego, Einstein,
Yes. I agree.
which is sad.
Yes.
But also, I guess part of the positiveness was if he didn't have that ego in the first place, he wouldn't have had a big enough ego to make a revolutionary theory,
True.
which shows again the power of independence of being. Don't be so either or, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. That's the, you want to have both. You want to be have the independence to say something totally revolutionary. Hey, whole world, you are wrong in this, and I'm going to stand by my point because in this,
Right,
I'm
right.
absolutely convinced I'm right. Prove me wrong if you can, please. I would love you to, but until you can, this is going to be my truth. Right?
Hmm.
That's it. At the same time, you are open and honest. If somebody does come and say, "Oh, you are," oh, thank you, and you move on and you change just like that.
Right.
No attachment to it, in other words. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Big point. Big point. What's been sitting in your heart, Bean? I was calling Bina Olivia earlier, and then when I went to visit Olivia the last time, I was calling Olivia Bina.
Oh dear, that's funny.
I think I mentioned this to you before. My mother used to do this all the time. So how the hell can you not remember the names of your children, for cracky sake?
Right, right.
Coming back to haunt me now. It's coming back to haunt
Oh gosh, that's funny.
me.
Um, oh man,
Bina
there's
bothered me, as a kid. Sorry.
right, right.
She
Yeah.
mentioned it so regularly. Yeah.
Oh,
But she
well,
never
I
felt
always
it. She would just carry on.
right. I
That's
always
what bothered
find it
me.
endlessly amusing when people make it harder on themselves. Like Joe's grandma on his dad's side had three sons, and she named them. Let's see, who was the oldest? I think it was David. So she named him David, Danny, and Donnie. David, Dan, Don.
Because it was cute at the time.
Right. And so she always is like, Don, Dan, Don, Dad, and you're like, okay, well, you made that hard on yourself. you, you set yourself up for failure on this one because, yeah.
A failure to think things through to the
Yeah.
end
It's so funny. Um,
and think of consequences and practical application. That's why the application mindset that, of course, way of impeccability is emphasizing over and over and
right.
over. It's so important. So important.
Absolutely.
Do you have a poem to share?
Do I have a poem to share?
Yeah.
Um, any poem in particular or just
No, anyone. I'm just asking. I don't know. It just popped in my head there.
well, so I've actually been I've been thinking about all kinds of different things. I
Oh,
have been thinking about poems again. Um, I was thinking about my dandelion poem again and just about poems in general. And I came across um, this person on TikTok who found me because of my dandelion poem. And she is someone who writes poetry and she has kind of just started doing some spoken word poetry. And it's really beautiful. I love her writing. She has a really, she definitely has a gift for describing things in a way that immediately brings you into her context, I guess. It's really interesting. The ones that I know of hers are spoken and not written out. So I'm trying to think of how I would share. Let's see. I do know she has. Wonder. Let me try something. Oh shoot, what's her last name? Ashley. Yeah, there we go. Did she post her fall poem?
Oh, it's just that question is prayer poem, made me think of the poems now. So
Yes. Um, I don't know if she posted her. Okay, this one she did. I was gonna say, I think I recognize that. Um, did she post the fall one?
I made a little sub file of poems. I've written more, but ones that I like, that I think are.
Right, right.
So I wasn't sure if I had that in there or not.
Well, I was trying to see if she had a written. version of this one poem of hers that I was actually thinking about the other day. Um,
Well, before we read it, since you're thinking about a lot of things, let's hear, because, I don't know how much time you have.
well, I do have to get off on time today because I've got several things I need to get done outside before it gets dark. Um, so one of the things I've been thinking about all kinds of different things. There's one thing that I do want to um, I think it warrants a larger discussion that I have been sitting on for a while, and I want to bring that up at some point. But um, I had another exciting. So I think I told you. I think I told you what was that last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. That again on TikTok there was a girl that posted a video singing this song that I sat down and learned like a really simple accompaniment to on guitar and then posted the video, which was a big deal for me. So I had been thinking about, I guess probably because of your conversation where with mom about anomalies when she was here last week, um, thinking about paying attention to anomalies, paying attention to things that are um, for one thing, sort of not immediately logically explainable, but also things that sort of don't come up very often or that are like really, something that really captures your attention and stands out. So I had been thinking about that. And by the way, I've also Joe and I both have been thinking a ton about the question that you posed to me about paying attention to where you see an underserved need. So we have both been really thinking about that.
Brilliant.
Um,
Brilliant. And did anything
but
come from that, or you're just paying attention?
no, not yet, just paying
Good.
attention. But we
Good.
both, I was sharing that with Joe because he was saying he is getting increased, he continually puts applications in for jobs that he sees that look interesting, that have the remote work option, and continuously receives rejections back, and he's becoming increasingly more frustrated.
I would very much suspect, and I would be happy to go over it with Joe, and
Mhm.
that his application is in some way missing stuff.
Right, right.
So I
It's
have helped people with this in terms of putting in their applications.
yeah, yeah.
I,
It
I
is.
I I think that this is the issue
We've
because
we've talked. Well, we have talked about that, and he has worked with several people
oh yes,
like within the industry on, does my resume look correct? Is what I'm looking for, do I fit with that? And all the feedback he's received is positive and that everything looks good. Um,
interesting.
there's
Interesting.
been several, that's the case, but
But
he's
because
getting
in this climate that we're in, jobs are there's fewer jobs than I mean, sorry, there's I'm saying they're hungry for people. So it's
right, right.
nothing.
Well, it's kind of bizarre, but it seems, and he's concerned at this point that he's ended up sort of pigeonholing himself into the energy industry because of his
Oh,
experience and all that. But at any rate, he said the other day that maybe what he should be doing is starting his own thing and finding, like finding some software or something that he could create that would fill some need or something. And I said to him that we had just been talking about this concept of looking for um, an underserved need that you have the motivation to fill and everything. So he's been thinking a lot about that. I've been thinking a lot about that. We haven't come up with anything yet, but we're paying a lot of attention.
fantastic.
But one of the things that was sort of anomalous, but that was interesting that came up this last week. So I had just gone through this exercise of learning this thing on guitar by myself, which I knew was not perfect. I knew it was not, it was not like some masterpiece, but it was a challenge for myself to practice doing this on my own, hearing, listening to this by ear, trying this out, and then singing along, being brave enough to post this thing. And so, I don't know, a couple days after I did that, I guess, um, this was another, it's so funny. I've been thinking a lot about all of the interesting people that I have met through unusual circumstances and how true it is that if someone is meant to be some presence in your life, that you will find them. You know, it is amazing to me the interesting ways that we come across people.
Uh,
And so I have come
not
across,
magical kings of Salem who can do literal magic, but it's still
right,
magical that they make.
it is magical. And so there's a guy who, and I'm not really entirely sure what his actual job is, but he is in the music industry, and I want to say he's like a producer. He must be a producer somehow who works on, like, he like mixes music and puts together albums with artists. And we are Facebook friends, and he found me through this page of a guitar player that I really love. And I get random friend requests from people that I don't know all the time. And 99.9% of the time, I just ignore it. I
Oh,
look
yeah,
at the
oh,
profile.
that's nice, taking a
Yeah.
chance.
I look at the profile. I go, nope. I have no clue who you are. You live halfway across the world, whatever. Like, no, sorry. And this was, I don't know, probably several years ago now. I got this random friend request from this guy, and I'm like, I don't know you. I have no idea who you are. You live in Australia, whatever. And somehow, I don't remember what it was, but there was something that I that stood out to me, that I was like, this is different. And I kind
Yes,
of,
yes, some anomaly.
yes, there was some anomaly. I don't remember what it was. And I dug a little bit deeper and figured out that he was somehow, he had found me somehow through John Gum, through this guitar player. And I was like, okay, and I could kind of tell that this was someone who was like, normal, quote
Yes,
unquote,
yes,
normal.
not a weirdo, in other words.
Yes, not like some super weird person. And I was like, and I mean, I never do this, but I was like, you know what? Why not? Like, let's just
Hey,
give it
good
a
for
shot.
you, Eureka. Yes.
And it turns out that he is this very nice, very normal, person who just looks to connect to new people through music. And so he and um, I mean, we don't have like extensive conversations, but I always post chicken videos in my stories every day. I post a video of the girls with some music in the background. And that, for whatever reason, that captures a lot of people's attention. And so
Well done. They're very sophisticated.
well, maybe so. But he was watching those, and so it's probably been 2 years ago now or so that he friend requested me. And so he would every once in a while, send some message about the chickens. Oh, say hi to the chickens, whatever. And so I see him routinely posting things about music that he's making, and he's working with some artist or he's making his own record. And it turns out, by the way, that he produced one of John Gom's albums, which is why
Ah,
that's why he was like on the John Gom thing. And so that was interesting, and he shared several stories about working with John. But so
John is
he
the guy who
posted
does the playing and talking at the same time.
the playing and
He
talking.
sort of kind of riffs and plays, and then sometimes he talks while he's playing, and it's just long sessions at night.
No, I don't. Oh, no, I know who you're talking. No, that's a different guy.
Oh,
John
oh, oh.
Gom he's a percussion guitarist.
Ah, you shared with me before.
Yeah, hey, oh my gosh, he's amazing. And the music that he writes
Yeah,
is
it's very different. Yeah.
so incredible. He's a very different person, really incredible musician. So anyway, Andy posted over the weekend, this last weekend, that he was working on a new song that is one of his, and that he needed, he said, attention, anybody who sings, I am working on this new track on my upcoming album. And there's this one sort of refrain that has this really big vocal that I want to have like as many voices as possible on this. It's a very simple thing. And so if you are a singer, record yourself singing this one line. I've got an instructional video on how to do it and send it back to me, and I'm going to put it together. And I was like, okay, this is something that I would know, especially like a professional producer, musician. Like I would normally never throw my hat in the ring on something like this. But I was like, you know what? I challenged myself to do this thing the other day. This is very anomalous. How often does someone who produces music open this up to anybody and everybody? And I was like,
music, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to challenge myself to try it. And if he doesn't use it, that's totally fine. But at least I have put myself out there. This is this really anomalous thing. It's caught my attention. And so I'm going to challenge myself to do it. So I did it over the weekend and I sent it to him and I said, I'm not a professional singer. I'm sure you have a lot of people in your friend list that are like actual professional singers. So, feel free to just ignore this, but this was too fun for me to pass up an opportunity to do this. And he wrote back. It was really fun. It was really fun. It was exciting. It was fun to challenge myself. And he wrote back and said, "This is awesome. It's going on my record. Like, welcome to my record. I'll send it to you in 2 weeks when this is done. It's going to sound really awesome." And so I was like, this is really exciting that I'm challenging myself to do something that makes me uncomfortable, but that obviously is exciting to me. It's something that brings joy. Singing with other people, being part of something musical is something that has always brought me so much, has always gotten in the way of that joy. And so pushing myself to do this and to throw my hat in the ring and try it was a really big deal. And it was even made even better by the fact that he decided to use it and that it's going to be on there. But it was just the exercise was really exciting.
And so I would put this under the category or heading of stepping into moreness.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, Erica is stepping into moreness.
I like it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just too fantastic, and of course, it is application, right?
Right. It is. It's true.
I mean, at some point, we realize we can do anything, and it's just this is under capital P practice.
Right.
Moreness, you've got to practice it, and the more you do, it is wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that, Erica. That is too phenomenal. So this brings up something that's a big deal to me. That it's one of the projects I would like to do.
Okay.
So let me screen share here with you, right? So what he's doing is something that I had a similar idea. So anyway, this was part of a conversation. Somebody asked me, and as anyway, so it's just coming in halfway through. So just stick with it for the first part. The Nobilia anthem goes like this.
Ah.
What's a new you? That's who. Anyway, Limo having fun. Drum roll. Hello, but no, here goes. Hello world. Now I can't really sing it. So Limo, just be patient. Hello world. Anyway, so it goes. So in other words, as you can see here, if you read it, the whole thing is just hello world, hello world, hello world. It's a variation of this. So my idea was to get singers to sing hello world in whichever way they think, right? But that's it. You got the two words only. You can repeat them as many, like you can say hello, 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 hello world, but however, whatever mood, and as long as it is an uplifting mood, no sadness, in other words.
Right. Right.
A hint of it a little bit, but we don't want to bring that side of it in because it's a low world. So it's not all about unreasonable cheerfulness either. You can have it sober, you can have it thoughtful, you can have it sublime, profound. And then to take all of those recordings and fuse them together.
Right.
Right. So you get a basic melody like basically the way, in other words, if you're singing this when they play national anthems, this is how the thing came together, with the agglomeration, you have planet anthems
Right.
for countries, and at some point you got to sing it, right? So they wanted to make it very easy, and everybody
Right.
can sing along. And how you sing along is up to you. You can, sing hello, hello world, hello world.
Right.
So, but I think it would make a phenomenal song.
I like it. I
Right?
like it a lot.
Doing exactly what he's doing with you, but just with this. Now, you aren't just getting people to sing just two words, they're singing a bunch of them, and you've got the essential hello world, hello, hello world,
Right.
fuse them all together. I think this would be where you're basically hearing a world full of people singing hello world as if it was an anthem,
Yeah.
recorded
Yeah.
it at some stadium and nobody knows the words, and they just kind of sprung on them and you're trying to do the best you can to sing. So this also makes for another thing that's kind of an interesting thing to practice dog singing, right?
I like it.
I can't sing for crap, sorry. I mean, I wish I could. It sounds terrible even to me. Yes, because I'm being modest, it pains my poor ear that, oh no, God, sorry. So I can sort of hum around, but what I can do is kind of, sing like a dog. So when
Right.
I hear the songs and the words, I don't know what they are, but I'm just going, oh, oh, oh. You kind of,
Right.
it is fantastically fun.
Oh,
Really get an insight into the dog psychology also, that sometimes you see them singing along like that, they can't say the words, they're trying to articulate it as best they can, but
right.
they have no clue. But yeah, so it's a lot of fun to try dog singing too.
I like it. I like it. That's really funny. Well, all
Anyhow,
right.
so
I'm
was
going.
there anything else that, sorry, we digressed again and you got to go, was there anything else?
No, good. Oh gosh, I'm sure there's a million things,
Okay.
but
So by the way, if you want, what is today, Tuesday? Okay. Yeah, we can always make extra time, like on Fridays, for instance.
right, right.
We are getting behind with things like, man, so much more. But see, this is the brilliance, and I anticipated this. I really did, right? We are getting that exponentialness. We're getting to the
Yes,
sweet part of the curve
yes.
where
I
things are kicking in by way of application.
right, right.
It's magical. But there is
I
stuff I
do.
very much want to do specifically. Yeah.
Yes, and
If
I do.
you need to do extra time, anytime.
Well, I appreciate it. I do want to finish up the feeling and believing and get
Yeah.
started on some other things. And the big thing that I had been sitting on that I want to go through maybe next time has to do with feeling and believing.
Correct.
So
Correct. And
maybe we can get back on
okay, we'll be very focused on Thursday, or at least we'll try to be.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good.
Part of the feeling and the believing, it's, I don't know if it's in the program or not, I don't remember, but the whole thing with expressions is very potent when it comes to that.
hmm
Yeah. As a mechanism for the application of mood shifting, mood management, energy management.
Right.
It's very powerful. Just when you're doing something like you were when you were stepping into moreness, this adds to it. It's a technique which assists in stepping into moreness and capital P practice. Yeah, very potent,
I
very
like it.
potent.
I like it.
Any dreams before you go real quickly? Just whether you have
I
or not.
I've in some cases been able to remember the sort of overall
Excellent.
theme or feeling. In some cases, as soon as I've woken up, I've lost
Yeah, yeah.
where, what was happening. So, but yeah, I have been practicing writing down the sort of overall theme and pattern. So,
Okay, brilliant. I'm supposed to go hard exit also, but somebody,
oh,
through nobilia.org/apply, they can schedule an appointment.
uh-huh.
They did for right now, but they're not here. For
Oh,
whatever people schedule and then they never show up. Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Or if I call them, then they're not there. So yeah, I don't
Right,
understand
right.
how this works. It's very odd.
That's very strange. Well, I hope they come.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
All right. Well, I will do some more of the feeling and believing,
Oh,
and
good. Oh,
plan
good. I'm
to
looking
do
forward
that
to
for
that. Yeah,
next
and then
time.
keep in mind, like, we can, it doesn't have to be Fridays, it can be any other time, doesn't matter.
Right, right. Okay.
Right.
Sounds good.
All right. If we need
Sounds
more
good.
time, I
Yeah.
do. Okay. All right.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Sil. I will catch up with you soon.
Yes. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.